When you look at the government from the outside, you talk about the red tape and you talk about the bureaucracy and how they drag their feet on things. There's a logic to abiding by rules. One of the key things that the government has to do is to abide by rules, to abide by norms and rules and regulations. And if you have to innovate, you have to innovate within the confines of those rules, or develop rules when you innovate. So that's number one, and you have to set an example yourself, because you can't be flagrantly violating the rules and expect others to comply. When we framed Ehsaas and when we kicked off the program, the first thing that we did is to come up with the governance, the Ehsaas governance and integrity policy. I said these are the parameters on which the executing agencies will have to follow. There's no relaxation in that. And then we translated each one of those parameters into indicators and started measuring how entities were executing, how entities were embracing those attributes and how they fared in terms of measures and scores and all. And then we made a dashboard that was visible. So the first part is that you have to stand on, you have to stand on solid foundations. I have seen that there's a trend just to focus on the programs and the visibility and the iftitah and the cutting of the ribbon and coming up with a policy document. But there are so many things around that. That's just one very little part in a chain of things. And then of course when execution of programs comes, first you have to you have to design programs properly, because a lot of times people sow the seeds of failure when the program is being designed. Sometimes it is because of lack of understanding or lack of the will to have the rigorous peer review to improve it, or the lack of proof of concepts, or the lack of rigorous evidence from pilots. So there are a whole host of things that are fairly benign, but you do them because you just want a program off the ground. You're not going to take the effort to see how the design is done. And sometimes I have seen for myself it is mala fide. So you sow the seeds of failure because you want to personally benefit from it, because there's a rent-seeking objective, because there's an outright corruption objective embedded in what you're structuring. So I think the governance, the design, and then is how you execute. So the execution is a totally different ball game. You have to be very, very disciplined. On a daily basis, you're putting things, as you will see in my office, I have no desk. There is just a projection system with people sitting with me on a round table, and when I'm in the office, that is what I do all the time. Just put things on the screen and say, where are we in the process? And to empower them and respect them to deliver, because there are a lot of good people in the government system also. You just have to seek them out and empower them, and to signal to them that you are trying to work in public interest. I recall once I was having a meeting and we had to execute a cash operation, and we were doing the daily work plan, because as you get closer to execution, you do a daily work plan. And we said, well, this thing is going to take 7 days. And the next day, the finance person brought that thing turned around. I said, well, I've done it. I worked till very late. I've done it. Because they believe that there is a culture of integrity within the organization. If they knew that I was a corrupt person, that I was giving favors to my own, to my relatives, and had my relatives given employment to them, and had my driver's children employed they would never respect me. So you have to set an example. You have to set an example. You have to empower people people with clean hands. And once they feel empowered, and once they see that there's a culture of integrity, they do perform.